This is part 2 for lesson 10.4, and we're talking about reflections. Okay, continuing on, this time we are going to reflect across this line, y equals 2x minus 3. So the first thing we need to do is we need to graph that line, and we have to graph it correctly. So our y-intercept is negative 3, and my slope is 2x, or 2. So I'm going to go up 2 and over 1. And so you go ahead and graph that line. You're going to get a straight edge. Okay, it's very important that you get this line straight and that you get it correct. So using a straight edge, get your line. I'm going to have to maybe try a couple times since I can't use a straight edge here. Okay, that's my line of reflection. So I kind of have an idea of how my image is going to look. I know it's going to look, something like that, okay, but it's kind of hard to freehand it. We're not trying to freehand it here. The next thing I need to do is, what is the slope? My slope of this line right here is 2. So what is my perpendicular slope? And that's something you need to take a moment and you need to decide that each time. So opposite reciprocal. There's a reason why we wrote that a couple of times. So negative 1/2. This is the pathway. That's the pathway that I'm going to follow with all of my points. So down 1 and over 2. So I'm going to start at y, and I'm going to go down 1 and over 2, and I get to the line in one trip. So I'm going to go down 1 over 2 on the other side, and this will be my y prime. Since I just had to do that one time on the one side, I just do it one time on the other side. Okay, go to x. I'm going to go down 1 over 2, down 1 over 2, down 1 over 2. So that's 3 trips. So then on the other side of my line, I'm going to make 3 trips, down 1 over 2, and so on, and I'm going to get to x prime right there. Now on your paper, I don't really want to see all your trips there, so just I'm erasing them as I go. Okay, with z, and on your paper, you don't have to draw that. I'm just drawing it so you can see where my pathway is. So from z, I'm going to go down 1 over 2, and I have to do that 3 times. If you do this right, you'll always end up with either a whole trip or a half a trip. You're not going to end up with something weird. We're not going to give you anything that's going to be different than that, so you know that you're going to be okay. So this right here, this is going to be my z prime. Okay, so let me erase those little marks there. Okay, so the next thing you're going to do is get a straight edge, and you're going to connect your x prime, y prime, z prime. So I'm going to connect those with a straight edge. Okay, if I did this right, my x, y, z will be congruent to my x prime, y prime, z prime. And you can check that by picking up your paper, fold it on your line of reflection. So that's going to be your fold. And these 2 triangles should kiss like butterfly wings. Okay, so that's your job, is to check and make sure. If it doesn't do that, then you did something wrong and you go back and fix it. The first thing you need to check is you need to make sure that you graph this line correctly. The second thing you need to check is, did you get the right pathway? And then go back and check your counting and make sure that you did that right. Okay, for number 6, it's this question right here. It says, how is the line of reflection, that's my y equals 2x minus 3, related to the line segments formed by the corresponding points of the pre-image and the image? So what that means is, if I connect y and y prime, x and x prime, z and z prime, how is my red line related to my purple lines? And so if you remember in the previous video, this was something that we did at the beginning. It's a perpendicular. I know it's perpendicular because that was my pathway that I followed, but because it's even on both sides, it's a bisector. So it's a perpendicular bisector, and that's the relationship. Okay, number 7. We're going to reflect across this line, and I've got 3 points. Notice that it's not a triangle. I don't have these joined, and that's on purpose. I just have points, so I'm just going to reflect the points. So the first thing I have to do is I have to graph this line. So with your straight edge, you're going to make this line. Now, y-intercept is 2. My slope is negative 1/3, so I'm going to go down 1 and over 3. This is the line that I will use to reflect. So I can go up 1 and backwards 3 as well. So using your straight edge, you're going to make this line, and it's very important that you get this line right because otherwise nothing looks right. Okay, now the next thing we're going to do is we're going to say, number 1, what is the slope of that line that I just graphed? It's negative 1/3. Number 2, what is the slope of the perpendicular line? Do you know what that is? Opposite, so because the original slope is negative, my opposite will be positive, and reciprocal, so 3. That means up 3 over 1, if you want to think about it like that. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go to x. Now when I go to x, if I go up 3 and over 1, am I ever going to get to my line? No, I'm going in the wrong direction. Okay, I'm going to have to go that way. That's still a positive slope. If you look at that line right there, that's still a positive slope, but I'm going to have to go the other direction. So that's going to be the same thing as negative 3 over negative 1. So I'm going to go down 3 and over 1. That's one trip. Down 3 and over 1. So this right here will be my x prime. Now, if that is weird to you, like if that just doesn't seem right, why don't you start with z? And if you go up 3 and over 1, up 3 and over 1, that's 2 trips to the line. So then if I do it again on the other side, my z prime will be right there. And so you're just going towards the line. So if it takes you changing both signs, you can do that. Okay, like right over here, like I did negative 1 over 3, but you could also do 1 over negative 3. So it's still the same thing, just a different direction. And so my z prime and then my w prime, so since I have to go towards the line, I'm going to have to go down and left to make that happen. So I'm going to go down 3 and over 1, down 3 and over 1. So that's 2 trips. And so I'm going to go 2 trips on the other side. So here's my w prime. Okay, now since I'm not connecting dots, since my pre-image was not a triangle, my image will not be a triangle either. So I'm going to leave just the points and the labels. Okay, so w prime, x prime, and z prime. You're still going to do the same thing. So I want you to pick up your paper and I want you to fold right along there. X and x prime, they should kiss. W prime, z prime. And if you look at that, these slopes of my purple lines are all positive 3. That's going to be a positive 3, and that's going to be positive 3. Check and make sure. My red line is a slope of negative 1/3, so they are perpendicular, and since I did the same amount of distances on either side, it's a perpendicular bisector. So as far as what I should see on your paper, I should see the line that you reflected across. That's important. You need to have your reflection line. I do not want to see the lines connecting necessarily, but you can do those really lightly. That's good to check, but I don't want to see too much there. It's just messy and I can't really see what you've done. And I don't want to see your trips. I don't want to see all of that. So you can do that if you do it lightly, that's fine. Otherwise, you can just do the counting. So if you need to write it down, that's fine, but just do it lightly. So as far as what I want to see, this is what I want to see. You'll have test questions, and I'll be looking to see like that. Okay, where are all of those? So that's what we want to see here. Okay, let's go to number 8. This time we're going to reflect across the line y equals negative x. So remember that that's going to be y equals negative 1x plus 0. So go ahead and pause the video. I want you to graph the line of reflection, and I want you to reflect all of the points. And then you're going to come back to the video and make sure that you did it right. So pause the video until you're finished with this one, and then come back and make sure you did it right. Okay, I've got my line of reflection drawn, so you need to make sure you've got that same line. I noted that the slope of that was negative 1, and my perpendicular slope is positive 1, so I'm going to take each one, I'm going to go a slope of positive 1. Now, positive 1 slope is going like that, so that's the direction I'm going to go. So L, if I go up 1 and over 1, I'm moving in the wrong direction, so I'm going to go down 1 and backwards 1, negative 1 over negative 1, and that's going to take me 2 trips, and so L prime should be right there. So if I said L prime, I'm going to say that that coordinate is negative 6, positive 2. Okay, and that could be something that I'm going to ask you. So if I'm asking you like on Canvas to do the quiz, like I might be asking you the point instead of like actually doing the graphing because I can't necessarily grade that. So for M, we're going to go down 1 over 1, and I'm going to go half. So I need to count 1, 2, 3, 4, 5.5. So I'm going to go finish my half right there, and then 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So this point, M prime, that should be at negative 7, negative 4. And so you can check and make sure that that's where yours is. Okay, P, I am going to go up this time, up 1 over 1. So 3. And so P prime will be right there. and that's going to be at +4, +2. And then n prime, we're going to go up 1 over 1, and then up 1 over 1 n prime. So that's going to be at +6, -4. Now, if you, whoops, I didn't mean to erase that. If you were to look at the ordered pairs of your pre-image and compare them with the ordered pairs of your image, you will see a pattern. Personally, I don't enjoy memorizing what all of the patterns are. I would rather see it graphically. It makes a lot more sense to me. So if you can, that's great. You still need to be able to show me on a graph. You would also need to be able to tell me what the ordered pairs are of your image, and that's just so that I can check and make sure that you've got that right. Okay, this lesson will be continued in part 3 of the video.